It's that most wonderful time of the year, where the snow is freshly fallen on the ground, and teachers are trying to make sure finals are graded in time. All the while, kids are building snowmen out on the lawn, and it's the greatest, most wonderful thing in the entire world. The Christmas season has always been my favorite time of the year. Call me old-fashioned, but I'm a sucker for a good classic cartoon Christmas special. You've got the Flintstones Christmas Carol, Dexter versus the Santa Claus, the Ed, Ed and Eddie Christmas cartoons, Johnny Bravo, Blueto's the Christmas Elf, and who could forget the Nelvana animated movie, A Cosmic Christmas. My family and I would always find time to watch these shows when we were younger, but as I got older, I realized that the reason I had positive memories associated with these shows is because they were really good and held up well even today, and it had nothing to do with family time. Okay, maybe that's a little bit of a lie. But hey, I figured that since it's my favorite time of the year, why not watch some of my favorite Christmas specials leading up to Christmas and talk about them. This is a totally original idea of mine and has never been done any time before by any YouTuber ever, not even. So I figured let's start out with a classic. Frosty the Snowman, narrated by Jimmy Durante, produced by Rankin-Bass. It's Christmas Eve in the snowy little town of, it actually doesn't specify where these kids are living, so I figure maybe, I'll call it, let's just call it Milan, Ohio. There's no reason to pick that town whatsoever. I don't even think it's a real place. So the little Ohio kids are in the middle of their school Christmas party, and their teacher decides now is the perfect time to bring out the world's most inept magician, Professor Hinkle. I like to call him the Stinky Wizard. But because he's the absolute worst and these children have zero respect for the mystic arts, they rush outside and build a snowman. There's a lot of yelling at this part, and someone suggests the name Oatmeal for the snowman.
Oatmeal!
And one of the children suddenly becomes Thurl Ravenscroft. If that name doesn't sound familiar to you at all, it should. They are the incredibly brilliant and deep voice that sang You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch for the animated Grinch movie from an eternity ago. He's kind of a musical icon. Stinky Wizard loses his hat to a gust of wind, which a young girl named Karen catches and tosses onto Frosty's head, bringing him to life.
Happy birthday!
I think Hinkle is just a really dumb D&D 5e wizard who just didn't cast the right spell on his hat, thought he had something else, when in reality it's just, a wish spell. Karen and the other children are so taken aback by the birth of Frosty that they're stunned silent as Frosty proceeds to utter an incantation to steal their souls. Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, that's a different movie. I forgot that I picked up Frosty the Snowman's Revenge. I'm gonna get that sorted out. Frosty is so excited to be alive that he doesn't even notice Hinkle swipe the hat back, returning him to a lifeless lump of ice and flesh. The children are sad, and I'm getting real Milady vibes from Hinkle. Luckily, Hinkle's rabbit, Hocus, is a magic rabbit with a heart of gold and switches out the hat, returning it to the children. Frosty is resurrected and celebrates by parading through the streets of town. And may I just say that the Frosty the Snowman song is just as iconic today as it was back then. No matter how many times I've heard it in the past 30 years of my life, it has never lost its luster. Just as things seem to be going well and good, tragedy strikes. The temperature in Ohio is starting to rise quite rapidly. Frosty worries he'll melt in front of his friends, endeavoring to travel to the North Pole for survival's sake. One big thing I'd like to say about this video is that the animation is super crisp. This film is almost 60 years old, and I think it holds up better than a lot of cartoons from the last 10, 15 years. Look at Transformers Beast Wars, which is something that's barely 20 years old, maybe a little more, compared to 60-year-old Frosty the Snowman.
Snowman can't come.
It's good. Frosty tries to buy a ticket from the man behind the counter, but learns a valuable lesson about living in the United States.
Capitalism!
So with no ticket and no prospects, the kids sneak Frosty into the refrigerator train car. Karen tags along, for some reason, and Hinkle stows away underneath the caboose. The trip to the North Pole goes about as well as expected, with Frosty and Hocus, yes, the rabbit is still tagging along with them, managing the cold just fine, but poor Karen is freezing to death. It's probably due to the fact that she decided to wear shorts the entire trip. I understand that it's Ohio in December, and the temperature can rapidly fluctuate between 60 degrees and negative 20 degrees, but today was probably not a day to wear shorts. These are not stories from personal experience. Frosty takes drastic measures to save Karen by throwing her from a moving train and escaping with her to try and find somewhere to keep her warm. Thankfully, Frosty comes across a cult of forest animals that not only know what Christmas is, but also how to craft ornaments, trim the tree, and light a fire. Frosty then has this whole crisis about how he can't make a fire or else he'd die, and he totally seems okay with that, which would mean saving himself over his friend. But he also seems to genuinely care for Karen. At the end, the animals do their best to keep Karen warm, while Frosty stands guard and waits for Santa to show up. By the way, that's actually Frosty's plan now. Wait for Santa to show up, then threaten him into taking Karen home so she'll survive, and then take Frosty to the North Pole where he can live forever. I don't know, man, it seems like a pretty solid plan. Unfortunately for the pair, Hinkle springs an ambush, forcing Frosty and Karen to flee to a conveniently placed greenhouse. You know, a greenhouse. Those things that are notorious for raising tropical plants. Tropical plants that only can survive in warm, humid climates. Warm, humid climates that might be detrimental. You know what? Let's just keep going. I want to take a quick step back, though, and mention the animal design. Every Rankin-Bass film I've ever seen has the most expressive animals, whether they're animated or done in stop motion. It's just so dang impressive. I've always appreciated that. Anyway, back to the sad stuff. Hinkle and his comedically large chin manage to track down the pair, and he locks them in the greenhouse. But wait, who's that arriving in the nick of time? Why, it's Santa Claus, here to save the day. Oh wait, he's too late, Frosty died. I guess that's the end of the review. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you'll join me for the next one where we talk about one of my favorite franchises of all time. I'm sorry, what was that? The movie's not over yet? And this joke has been done to death by so many people before me? And the fact that I've kept going on and on makes it even more sad that I'm continuing the joke? Well then, Santa rescues Karen, who is absolutely distraught over watching Frosty die in front of her. Thankfully, Santa reminds Karen that since Frosty was made of Christmas snow, that he will return every winter. Seems like kind of a cop-out, but okay. As if by some sort of Christmas magic, the winter wind blows and rebuilds Frosty's body, revitalizing him. Just as the hat is about to be put back on his head, everyone's favorite stinky wizard returns. Was Hinkle even really that evil of a person? I mean, he had nefarious plans, he tried to endanger children, and he killed Frosty. But like, was he actually evil or just misunderstood? I think he just really likes his hat. Santa threatens Hinkle with an eternal lack of presents unless he repents. So Hinkle rushes off home and tries to start anew. Frosty is revived, Santa drops Karen off at home, Frosty gets passage to the North Pole, and the credits roll. It's actually a really cute way to end the film. Frosty is leading another parade with every character, including the townsfolk, Hinkle with a new hat, and even Jimmy Durante, the narrator himself. The special comes to a close with Frosty flying off into the night sky, threatening to return again on Christmas Day.
I'll be back on Christmas Day.
So that was the Rankin-Bass Frosty the Snowman special. Out of all the Christmas specials in the Rankin-Bass pantheon, of which there are a ton, I'd probably rate this one a solid 6 out of 10. It's really good. The music and the songs are wonderful. I guess song, it's really just Frosty the Snowman. It's not too long, but not short enough where it feels like just a cheap thrill. And when you believe it, it managed to get a sequel. Yes, Frosty's Winter Wonderland. But that's a story for another day. Thank you so much for joining me for this video review, and as always, please be kind and rewind.